Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I have a faith journal process video for you. I am working through the Illustrated Faith devotional, When Love Finds You, and I am in just the very first section about a love that pursues. I love the concept that God is pursuing us. We are called to pursue Him, but in the same way, He is pursuing us. He's finding us where we are, and He's giving us signs that He is there and that His love is always there. And I love that we are getting a chance to kind of reflect on that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I do have an unboxing of this kit from Illustrated Faith that you can check out. It is available physically, and there's also a digital kit that you could download as well. All right, I will make sure to link everything that I end up using down below. Otherwise, I'm going to put you guys on fast forward. Let's go. All right, so this year I am journaling in a blank journal. I'm using it as a faith journal. It's from Archer and Olive. It was a special collaboration they did. It's 8x8. And I'm liking it as a change of pace from journaling inside my Bible, just to change things up. It gives me a little bit more artistic freedom, and I don't have to worry about covering up scripture and things like that. And I'm able to use these really large pieces from Illustrated Faith and not worry about running out of room for journaling and things like that. So today I'm going to be using the paint scraping technique, and all you need for the paint scraping technique is some acrylic paint like you see right here, and you put it on the edge of like an old credit card, a hotel room key, something like that. Put it on the very edge and then scrape down the page. Depending on what angle you hold it at, you'll get some different formations, and the idea is that it should be messy. It's kind of a messy look, and I'm wanting to create a mixed media messy look on this background page. When I am doing the paint scraping technique, I usually only choose 3 colors. If you start to do more than 3, it does get a little bit muddy. I also like to work from the darkest color to the lightest. So I start with the darkest color down on the page, and then I work lighter and lighter. The reason for that being, as you add the lighter colors, you can see I'm doing like an egg color here. It's a little bit off-white. It's going to lighten up and brighten up some of those darker colors that are on the page already. And I like that control. I like the mixing when you put the lighter color on top. So those are some of the general rules that I follow, but really the paint scraping technique is just a fun way to get some color splashed down on the page. I really like the boldness and simplicity of the stamp set this month. And so I'm going to pick one of these really big open hearts and get my paintbrush all washed off. And I'm actually going to paint directly onto the stamp. So it's on my stamp block. I'm using, again, that kind of creamy color paint and just adding paint right on there, and then I'm going to stamp with that. It gives you a cool impression. Because I'm using the lightest color, I'm doing some second generation stamping. Some of it is just impressions in the paint that's already there, and I thought that was super fitting because of the idea of these hidden hearts, or these small moments that God puts throughout your day and puts throughout the world that are just reminders of His love. And the author Dawn talks about how she can just see hearts all of the time in rocks, and food left over on a plate, like a crumbled piece of paper. She just sees hearts, and to her that's always a reminder that God is with her at all times, and God's love is with her at all times, even when she feels a little bit separated. The main focus verse that I am reflecting on is Psalms 23:6, and it says, "Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." And we were challenged to think of a time that God actively pursued us and that we felt that chase. We felt God, really, really speaking strongly into us. And I had a couple of times that came up. One was when I was a teenager living at home, and I, was having a difficult time with something, and I decided to just leave my house and run. And literally running, and I wanted to just go as far as I could. And to me, sometimes God speaks best to me when I'm out of breath. And I remember just running and running and running and running, not wanting to stop. And He brought me on this road that had a natural turn, and it turned you around to point me back to home. And I had never gone that far on that road. I didn't know that that turn was there, and I really felt like it was God speaking to me, telling me to stop, to take a breath, to turn around, to head home. And I just love the thought that, of course, we are called to pursue God, and that when we pursue Him and when we seek Him, we will definitely find Him. But that sometimes we are so lost, we don't even know where to start with the pursuit, and He will search us out in those times. I'm working on some large clusters right here that'll go on different parts of the page. And when I'm doing large clusters, instead of attaching them straight to the page, I start to attach them together before I put them on the page. So for instance, I'm going to put a bunch of adhesive on the back of this journaling card, and then I know I want to layer this piece behind it, so I'll stick that on, then add more backing, more adhesive, and then I'll stick this little piece on. And I just like to assemble it before I put it on the paper. It gives me a little bit more control before I actually press it down. So now I have my two big clusters that are kind of setting the stage. I love the big card that says "When Love Finds You." It is just so beautiful. I have some white space that I'm wanting to kind of fill up, and I'm trying to figure out where my title is going to be. I think it's going to go at the bottom. So I'm going to use the washi tape. I'm going to tear it in half because I love the look of torn washi, and I love this just sherbet color. I think it is so pretty. So I'm going to use it to kind of edge out this tag over here to bring in a little pop of that color up at the top where it was a little bit white and stark. And then I'm going to add it a few more in a few more spots around the page. When I'm using washi like this, I try to make sure that it's used pretty liberally around the page, if that makes sense. Like I want it to be a constant, like a repeated element, so that it comes all together and it doesn't feel like something that just kind of sticks out. I do really like for my journaling pages to feel very full. And so I'm actually going to use the washi again, and we're going to use it as two different anchor points. So right now I'm kind of stretching it across the page. This gets a little bit wonky because I roll out all the washi. But what I want to do is take a big long piece of washi that just hangs over the middle of the page. I'm taking it back off. Yay for washi being easily removable. And I'm just going to work on tearing this in half. It gets a little bit crazy and it curls, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. I want the torn look. I'm not going to use scissors because I want it to be messy because it matches the messiness of the background. And I just love the fact that like in this messy world, in this messy page, you can still see the hearts, like the signs of God's love are still there. So it's torn in half. I have this super long piece. I'm going to use it over on the bottom left and let it hang over the middle of the page. That way it is connecting the two sides. And then I'll do the same thing on the upper right. And they're kind of coming together, hanging over the middle of the page, bringing the two sides together even more. So this is something I'm trying. I'm not totally used to this 8x8 size, especially in a double page layout like this. It's definitely unusual for me. So I'm trying to think of ways to bring the two sides together so it doesn't feel necessarily like super elongated. Next up, I'm going to work on adding the title. I'm just going to do some hand lettering on the bottom of the page. I have sped this up a lot. This is a gray pen. It's a Tombow lettering marker. I will definitely link it below. I really like these. They come in some of the basic colors besides black. There's like a red and a yellow and green and things like that. So I like the gray just because it's not so in your face. It does right over the acrylic. Some of the acrylic that I used has a little bit of a sheen to it, so I have to be really careful not to smear it. And I also leave this out and let it thoroughly dry open in my craft room for usually like a day. When I do art journaling and things like that, I like to let it fully dry before I start to close it and store it away. So the title, He Pursues Me, and now I'm going to add some different scripture references. I'm coming back to the devotional that I've already studied, and I want to add the scripture references that really stuck out to me. I do usually like to do lines. I don't mind my handwriting, but I don't trust myself to write straight. I know that I'll end up like it being all wonky, and I wanted the lines to be straight. So I will add some different lines. And like I said, the main verse that I'm focusing on, I'm going to write up here. And it says, "Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." Psalms 23, 6. And again, the thought of God pursuing me in that moment when I was just running and I just wanted to be out of breath, I wanted to just keep running, He turned me around and I felt like He was pursuing me. I also think of the times that I've had those, what I call God wink moments, where I just feel like He uses repetition in my life. He brings me to a certain spot that could only be a God thing. And I think of the time my now husband and I were doing a long distance relationship. We separately attended like 2 different churches. I came home and got out of my church and called him and left a message and said, I'm so excited about something I just heard in church. And he called me not 10 minutes later and he said, I'm so excited about something I just heard in church. And we shared, and it was like God had spoken the same message to both of us, hundreds of miles apart. And it really felt like He was using that opportunity to bring us more together. So I love those moments where you just know that God is speaking into your life. And it's really important to take note of those for the times that you're lost, so that you can always remember and trust that He is pursuing you, that He is going to bring you back to Him. All right, the second verse that I added was Jeremiah 29:13, where it says, You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. And then the last verse I'm going to add over on the right side of the page says, My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Psalms 73:26. And I had been doing so well not smearing anything until I got over to this side, and then I did smear it. You can see I just bring in my Ranger heat tool to try to dry it, and I'm being really careful as I write. And again, I just lay this open and let it dry completely in my room for about 24 hours before I close it or before I go on to the next page. So getting that in there, then I'm going to take some of the stickers. There are these beautiful heart stickers that I'm going to kind of spread around the page, just because I want the hearts to really jump out all around the page. And so I'll kind of nestle them in some different areas. The colors I'm choosing, I'm trying to make sure certain colors are moved around the page. So I didn't feel like I had a lot of yellow on the right side. I'm going to do this pale peach over on the left. And I'm just, again, moving these colors around the page because I want it to feel like this huge overflow of love. The last thing that I'm going to do is add in my journaling on that journaling card that I put in, and I wrote, Dear Lord, you have pursued me all the days of my life. Thank you for your never-ending love. Open my ears to your whispers and my eyes to your signs. May my life be one that pours your love out to others. Amen. And that's going to be it for this faith journal process. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. As always, I will link all of the supplies that I use down below so you can find them if you are interested. I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you so much for all of your support. You help make this channel possible. If you want to find out more about Patreon and what we're doing over there, then you can check out the link in the description box below. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day, and as always, keep it creative.